This is Mechanical Mastery, a fairly new 1.18.2 questing mod pack that starts a little differently to a lot of the regular Skyblock mod packs that you may have played. This one has no Ex Nihilo in it whatsoever. So there's no sifting, there's no hammering. Instead, this pack starts with ProjectE. The first quest here says, welcome, and it says, welcome to this mod pack, where your objective is to automate every mechanical crystal. Through the questbook, you will receive many of the basic materials you will need to fulfill this job. Make sure to learn the items first before using them up. No refunds. So the first quest is simply a tick box quest, and in return, we get some water, some lava, our first sapling. We get bread, which is fantastic. I love it when a mod pack gives you food right out of the gate. We get our bed, we get some coal ore, and most importantly of all, we get the transmutation table. So this is from ProjectE, and when you place it down, you can open it up, and when the quest book says that you should learn the resources before you use them, what it means is that any resource that has an EMC, like the sapling here, can be placed into the left-hand slot of the transmutation table. If you do that, it will say learned in the middle, and now, once we get some EMC, specifically once we have more than 32 EMC in our individual EMC network, we will be able to pull a sapling out of here at the cost of that EMC. Now, ProjectE has been heavily tweaked in this mod pack. You'll notice a lot of the stuff that would normally have an EMC doesn't have an EMC. In fact, in this pack, the only things that have EMC are the raw, basic, kind of fundamental resources that we need to craft a lot of the items and machinery that are going to allow us to automate things moving forward. For example, over here, you'll see the first quest is for Cobblestone. This wants to get us a regular Cobblestone generator. I believe, though, once we do have Cobblestone, we can EMC it. And Cobblestone is incredibly cheap. It's 1 EMC. And so going forward, we can, for example, trade 1 sapling for 32 Cobblestone. We do have the FTB Ultimine mod installed. And so if you hold down the FTB Ultimine key, which you can find under Options, Controls, Keybinds, and then if you type Ultimine, it's this one right here. I have mine set to button 4, which is a button on my mouse. You hold it down, you'll know it's working when you see the white outline around the block you're trying to break. And basically what this does is it allows you to break all blocks of the same type with 1 block break. So if I break this piece of wood right here, it's going to go ahead and break down all of the wood. And then because we have the faster leaf decay mod installed, it's going to get rid of all of those leaves very quickly. Real quick, I'm going to go Options, Music and Sound. I'm going to turn the sound for rain right down because that is going to drive me insane. But you'll notice that we do have a chest right here under the platform, and this does give us more of the same things that we get from the quest book. Not entirely certain why, but I'm happy to have those nonetheless, just in case we do end up losing some of this stuff in the future. We can make a regular Minecraft crafting table, and I don't think that we have Tinker's Construct in the pack. We do not, so no crafting station, unfortunately. That is fine, though. For now, what I might do is I might replace the regular Minecraft chest that we have here with the crafting table, just for ease of crafting going forward, and then maybe we'll throw the chest down like this for the time being. So taking the lava and water, what we should be able to do is hopefully fairly easily here, set up a bog standard cobblestone generator. This is not really something that I think we're going to need for a long period of time. I think, in fact, once we have our first piece of cobblestone, we can probably just get rid of it, because of course at that point we can then just use our transmutation table to get as much cobblestone as we like, so long of course as we have the EMC for it. For those who don't know, a regular Minecraft cobblestone generator is water flowing down into a hole, and then lava over here that's going to produce cobblestone in the middle. Fantastic. That is standard Minecraft stuff. Let's get a regular old pickaxe. And once we have that, we can get, hopefully, our first piece of cobblestone, at which point we can teach it to the transmutation table. You can also put it in the burn slot at the bottom here. Putting it in the burn slot will get rid of the item, but it should also teach the transmutation table the item as well. And so, for example, if we took these 21 saplings, we could burn all of these in the burn slot. That would add 672 EMC to our transmutation network, and now you can see that we can craft coal or oak saplings or cobblestone just by clicking and dragging them, or shift-clicking to get a stack. Pretty cool stuff. So, the big premise of this pack is right here. All of the basic resources are kind of just given to us right out of the gate. So right here, we can tick a box, we get 8 redstone. We can tick this box, we get iron. This box here gives us 16 copper. We also get some gold, we get some silver, we get some lead, we get some tin, we get some nickel, we get some aluminum, and we also get some clay. So that's a majority of those quests taken care of right out the gate. We also get 8 more oak saplings as a reward there from the wood quest. And essentially, what we want to do is we want to take every single one of these and just throw them into the transmutation table. And so now going forward, we can use any form of EMC generation that we like to get these resources. So we could, if we wanted to, stand at the cobblestone generator and just mine cobblestone endlessly and then dump that cobblestone into the transmutation table. Not the most effective way of getting resources because you'd have to mine 256 cobblestone to get 1 raw iron, but the much faster way of getting EMC is with saplings, because you can grow a tree. If the average tree has 5 or 6 logs in it, you're going to get anywhere between 150 and 200 EMC per tree that you cut down, which essentially equates to about 1 raw iron per tree. That's basically the way that we can generate resources in the early game. However, the whole premise of this pack revolves around these mechanical essences and mechanical crystals. If we go to JEI and we type in mechanical, there are 5 tiers of these crystals and their associated essences, and each one is kind of a milestone that unlocks a new chapter. So chapter 1 is the red crystal, chapter 2 is blue, then yellow, then purple, and then tier 5 here is the final chapter, which actually begins with one of the crystals and ends with us crafting the creative vending upgrade. But the idea here is that we need to automate the production of these mechanical essences. You can then process those into mechanical crystals, and those mechanical crystals are the only other things that are not basic resources that have an EMC value. And you'll see that quite valuable. The basic mechanical crystal here has an EMC value of 8,192. And so the premise is that we want to automate the making of these mechanical essences, and we want to make that automation as efficient as we possibly can on the raw resource front. So we wanted to use as few raw resources as possible to make the initial EMC cost really low, and then we want to automate it so that we can get the higher EMC value out of the basic mechanical crystal, and in doing so, we can kind of infinitely increase the amount of EMC that we have, and then we can use that to progress forward into the next chapter. You'll see we're going to get diamonds, lapis, bones, zinc, cactus, all this kind of stuff the pack is going to give to us. Again, all of these do have an EMC value, and you'll see here that 1 diamond is equivalent to 1 of these basic mechanical crystals. And so if we can automate these, we could start converting these into diamonds as we move into chapter 2. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Let's start by trying to sleep so we can get rid of this horrendous rain. And then I think that step 1 here is going to be to try and make this island a little bit bigger. Now, as I mentioned, I don't really think that we're going to need this cobblestone generator. In fact, I think that we can basically get rid of this right out of the gate. Dirt here does have an EMC value, so we can drop that in. And once you get to more than 1 full page, you can scroll through the pages, but you can also search at the top here for the item that you're after. I'm going to grab a little bit of dirt just to fill in this hole that we've dug out over here, and for now I will get rid of this extra little bit of dirt on the end. That is 2 EMC lost, but you know what? I'm not going to lose too much sleep over it. Let's get 8 cobblestone, and let's get our first furnace up and running, because I think if we're going to expand the island out here, I would like to do it in a way that looks a little nicer than just using cobblestone or just using planks. Thankfully, we do have the Re-Chiseled mod, which is kind of a port or maybe a reimagining of the old chisel mod from earlier versions of Minecraft, and thankfully it's pretty easy to get started with. All we need is 1 iron ingot and 1 stick, at which point we're going to open up quite a lot of possibilities in terms of how we can decorate our island. So let's take that iron ingot, let's do this and this to get our chisel, and then in here what we can do is we can place whatever block it is that we want to chisel. For example, if we put cobblestone in, it shows us all of these different variations of cobblestone that we can use to decorate our base. And over on the right here, you can visualize the block in either a 1x1, 3x1, or 3x3 form. The reason for this is that some of these blocks, when you put them together, don't look great, in my opinion, until you press the connected textures button on the bottom right. Once you do that, the textures all connect and you get this nice, smooth, continuous pattern that I personally think looks a lot nicer than the non-connected textures version. But I do like the fact that you get to choose with this mod whether you want the textures to connect or not. Now, I think what I might do is I might take a look at potentially smelting some cobblestone into regular stone. And also, by the looks of it, this chisel doesn't have a durability, which is very nice indeed. It means we can use it endlessly without having to worry about it breaking, which is very nice indeed. But I do think that if we smelt a little bit of cobblestone into a regular stone, that's probably going to look a little bit nicer. And so what I might do actually real quick is I might just grab a few saplings here, get those planted down along the edge of the platform. We do have the mod installed that lets us shift here to grow these trees faster. You can also run back and forth if you so prefer, but these do grow nice and fast, and then from there, we can use our Ultimate key again to bring these down nice and quickly. Of course, if we wanted to, we could also go one step further, get ourselves 3 cobblestone, and upgrade to a regular Minecraft X. And again, if we really wanted to, we could even buy some iron and smelt that as well, although I do think that's probably a little bit expensive for how much EMC we currently have. And then, of course, once we have 41 logs there, we can just drop those into here, and boom, we got an extra 1,000-ish EMC, which is super nice. So let's take a look, and let's see about expanding this platform out just a little bit. And of course, we can make a few more furnaces here to make this job a fair bit faster. We've got basically an infinite amount of cobblestone at this point. We've got 31,000 cobblestone available to us, so we might as well utilize that massive amount of cobblestone to get ourselves a large amount of stone fairly quickly. The same's kind of true with wood as well. It's obviously a lot more expensive, but we do have what it takes to transmute almost 1,000 logs here, so getting fuel for these furnaces shouldn't be too difficult either. I think I'm going to go with this one here, the smooth stone tiles that's in the bottom left there with the connected textures on. And then I think I might use the wood as well, potentially in the middle, maybe in tile form, but I do also quite like these small plank bricks. I might try to put some of those in the center with the smooth tiles kind of around the outside. Okay, so I've put down an outline here of smooth stone tiles. And one of the other mods that we do have installed is this one, the Construction Ones mod. This allows us to place down a large number of blocks at the same time. So, for example, if we take our small oak bricks here, what we can do is we can place a line of those down like so, and then if we right-click onto the side using the wand, that's going to place down another line of those bricks. There are multiple tiers of wand that can be used. It starts with the stone wand that can do a maximum of 9, and then goes all the way up to the infinity wand that can do 1,024. But this is pretty nifty. And I think what I might do as well is I might make this outer edge a little wider. So we're not going to be able to do all of that in one swoop because of the fact that this platform is more than 9 blocks wide. But I might do something like this just to give us that little kind of pathway look around the outside here, because of course, as we press forward into the pack, we are going to expand out and make the space even bigger. But for the time being, I think I'm going to fill in all 4 of these quadrants with wood, and then I'll do this all the way around the outside using all of the stone that we've managed to smelt up in our array of furnaces to give us a fairly nice starting base. And at that point, we can start looking at automating the production of this first basic mechanical essence, which I don't think, chat, is going to be too difficult. Now, I don't actually know if we're going to need grass. I think we might, and I think if I get rid of all the grass here, I'm probably going to regret it. So what I might do is I might keep at least one of these quadrants green and just fill this with dirt so that we always have a grass platform around should we need it. Also, one thing we can do here is grab some of this coal ore, and I believe for now we just have to place it down and break it to get some coal. Again, you can use the wand here to place this down fairly quickly, and then once all that's down, we can use the Ultimate key to break that all at the same time. That's going to give us access to torches. So I'm being told by the Twitch chat a tip that I did not know about here, and that is that if you put in the item that you want to chisel, you select the design that you want to go with, you click on the connected texture, instead of just taking the stack out here, you can click Chisel All, and it will chisel all of the stone in your inventory, all of the same block in your inventory to match that design. That is super cool. All right, so not too long later, I've decided to go for 2 oak squares and then 2 grass squares. I did mess up and get rid of the grass here by placing down the furnaces, so I've left a little bit of a gap, and I'm hoping that we can encourage the grass to spread over into this quadrant. But now that we have a platform down, let me tear these furnaces down and move them somewhere a little bit more aesthetically appealing. I might put them kind of just over here for the time being. If we do maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I'll make a 10th one because, especially given that we get all of our resources in raw form, we are going to be doing a lot of smelting early on, at least until we unlock the ability to automatically process the resources with things like the pulverizer and the redstone furnace from thermal expansion. Also, I'm not quite sure why, but we're given a regular Minecraft chest at the start, but the chests that we craft are from quark. So annoyingly, those don't stick together, which is unfortunate. But either way, let's get this furnace down like that. And real quick, it's a bit of a detour here, but we might be able to encourage the grass to grow a little bit faster using the watering can from thermal cultivation. I don't actually know if this works or not, but it's fairly cheap. It's 4 copper, which we can do, and it's 1 bucket, which of course we have quite a few of them in here. So I'm going to go ahead and start smelting up a little bit of copper over here just to see if that does in fact work. And I think I will go ahead here and just replace this regular old chest with a quark chest just so that all of our chests look the same. We'll drop you in here, and then we'll make another regular Minecraft chest and drop that down like that. Of course, if you want them to connect in newer versions of Minecraft, I always forget, you got to shift right click on the side of the chest there. You can move the transmutation table or the transmutation tablet without losing your EMC. You'll see the EMC value is in the top left of the screen there at all times. It's not linked to any one transmutation table, so this is fully movable. And I think what we'll do is we'll put one of those down maybe right about here, and we'll put the other one down, for now at least, maybe right here on the opposite side as well. Obviously, in the future, as our base gets bigger, we can move these further afield, so we have a few of them available fairly close by no matter where we are in the base. So, question time. Can we take one of these buckets? And I think what we might do, as janky as it's going to look, is temporarily I'm going to make an infinite water source over here. So I'll make this a little bit wider. We do have quark installed, which means when you look off a block, you'll see those little brackets appear. If you right click, it will place a block down like after a block, which is super nifty for doing stuff like this. And then we'll do this and this to allow us to get an infinite water source so we can grab our water back should we need it. But let's see, if we do 1, 2, 3, 4 with a bucket, we should be able to then right click the bucket onto the center water source to fill it up. Shift right click, that is, to fill it up. And then from there, if we right click over here, I am kind of hoping that it helps spread the grass a bit faster. I did see one piece of grass spread. That might just have been coincidental. It might not actually have helped, but oh no, I think it definitely does make it a tiny bit faster. It's not particularly great. Chad does make a good point. If you hover over this, it says press V to change mode. And if you press V, it changes it from single block mode into area 3x3 mode. And so if we do that, that might even make it a bit faster. Yeah, look at that. That is definitely quicker in terms of spreading the grass here. All right, so I've gone ahead and spread almost all of the grass here. So these are almost done. There are a few little pieces of dirt left to be transformed, but those will slowly but surely transform over the course of today's stream. So now let's take a look at the remainder of the tier 1 quest line here. So the next quest up is either to make plates and rods or to get a Sterling Dynamo. The Sterling Dynamo is going to be our early source of power, so we'll bookmark that. For those who don't know, you can hover over an item and press A on your keyboard. That will either bookmark or get rid of a bookmark if you already have one. The bookmarks just mean that going forward, the item is here. So instead of having to search for Sterling Dynamo, it's just there ready to go. We don't have to keep searching for it over and over again. We can click it and we can see the recipe. So I'll go ahead and bookmark that. And then as for the plates and the rods, we just need an engineer's hammer, which is super easy to make. 2 sticks, 2 iron ingots, and 1 iron nugget, along with any plates in the game. So I believe the idea here is that we're going to take some iron, which of course we can get from our transmutation table, and we'll drop that into one of our furnaces, like so. Once we have 2 ingots worth, we can craft up, 3 ingots worth, because we need the iron nugget as well. Once we have 3 ingots, we can make the hammer. And then I believe we can craft the hammer with basically any resource in the game, any ingot, to make the plate version of that resource. Now the question is, which plate are we going to need first? So if we check a few of these recipes here, once we have the Sterling Dynamo, we can then look at making machines that are going to allow us to automate the crafting of this basic mechanical essence. Because this is actually craftable without any machines at all. if we get 4 iron ingots, we can make an iron gear. If we get 4 aluminum ingots, we can make an aluminum gear. And if we make 2 copper rods, which you can make with copper, we can then craft all of that together into the basic mechanical essence. We will need a multi-servo press if we want to be able to compact that down into the crystal form. And so I think that the multi-servo press might well be the first machine that we make. This one's a little pricey, but I don't think it's anything that we can't do. Real quick, let's get that engineer's hammer. Then let's craft up an iron plate, just because we have the iron ready to go. That's going to tick off both of those quests, giving us XP as rewards. And in this pack, at least in the early game, until we get an induction smelter, this guy here, the way that we're going to make alloys is using the dust versions of any of our resources. And these we get by pulverizing the base ingots together and then crafting those resultant dusts into the alloy. So here, for example, Constantan is an alloy that you can make using nickel and copper. So we need to take a nickel ingot and a copper ingot, pulverize those down using the pulverizer, which I believe is maybe the only thermal expansion machine here that doesn't require any alloys whatsoever. So it's going to be the first one that we make after the Sterling Dynamo. Once we have that, we can then pulverize things like nickel and copper, craft them together to make Constantan, and then smelt those to make Constantan ingots. This only has to be done a little bit because once we have the induction smelter, we can then use that to just smelt together the copper and nickel ingots into the Constantan ingots. So hopefully not something we have to do too much. But as far as that Sterling Dynamo goes, it does require gold and redstone. And in fact, I think what I might do here, chat, is I might take a couple of each resource. Some of these are, of course, a lot more expensive than others. Gold, for example, is 2,048 EMC per ingot, which is prohibitively expensive. Nickel's also 1,024 per ingot, which does also make it quite expensive in the grand scheme of things. But I think what we'll do is we'll get a couple of these going in all of our furnaces, just so we have a bunch of each resource ready to go, so we can make crafting a fair bit easier here. Of course, the whole point of getting these machines is that hopefully fairly soon we're going to automate the production of all of these, and specifically, of course, automate the creation of those mechanical cubes so that we can purchase these without having to worry too much about their EMC cost. And I think while we wait for all that to smelt, I might do a little bit more in the way of wood chopping, just to make sure that we have enough EMC to continue to purchase all of these resources. So these are all done. I did manage to get a little bit more EMC, about 1,000 or so. So hopefully that's going to keep us going a little while longer before we have to start worrying about it. But we also need redstone. So let me get a couple of pieces of redstone ore. Thankfully, not too expensive. 64 is rather cheap in the grand scheme of things. This is going to require an iron pickaxe, and so right away we are going to have to use some of that iron that we just smelted on another pickaxe here, which does make me think I should probably go ahead and get even more iron smelting here, just because I think it's probably going to be one of those resources that we use more than anything else. Let's harvest our redstone, and let's see if we can't make our first source of power. So the redstone flux coil is 2 redstone and 1 gold. We then need an iron gear, which is 4 iron and an iron nugget. And then it's just 2 stone, 2 iron, and a 1 redstone. Stone we should have over in here. We totally do. Iron we are smelting over in here. And with all of that, we can go boom and boom. We have a Sterling Dynamo. This guy converts fuel into power. So if we were to, for example, place that down, I don't know, maybe right about here, it will produce power when we put any fuel into it, for example, oak planks here, and it will output that power to the front of it, so to the red side here. Speaking of which, we could do with the multi-servo press. Now, people have pointed out in the Twitch chat that there's actually an easier way of us getting the dusts. It looks like, for example, if we wanted to make the Constantan blend here, we need copper dust and nickel dust. It appears we can do that using the engineer's hammer. If you craft the engineer's hammer with the raw ore, you get the copper grit, and then you can just craft that with the nickel grit to get what it is we're after. Now, the problem that we're going to run into is that we actually don't have enough EMC to buy any more nickel, and so what I might need to do here is just quickly get a little bit more in the way of wood to facilitate my purchase of some nickel. One quick dump of logs later, we can take a nickel, we can hammer that down as well, like so, and we can then combine the copper grit and the nickel grit to get Constantan grit. Now, we do want to be careful here because the quest specifically wants Constantan blend, which is not the same as Constantan grit. Thankfully, this little button right here lets you swap to the correct recipe. There we go. And once we have the Constantan blend, we actually do get some Constantan ingots as a reward. But now we can go and look at making the multi-servo press, maybe even before we look at making the pulverizer, which might not be a terrible idea. So if we are going to make the multi-servo press, we need a block of iron, which is already more iron than we have. We need 2 bronze ingots. We need another redstone flux coil. That's the easiest of the crafts to do. We then need a machine frame, which does require a tin gear. That's fine. It also requires 4 iron and 4 cobblestone. We're going to need so much more iron. We also need 2 Constantan gears, which are made in the same way. It's 4 Constantan and an iron nugget. We do have 4 Constantan, but we are going to need yet more. We're going to need 1 more raw copper and 1 more raw nickel. We can hammer both of those down again into their grit formats, and then we can, of course, craft those again into the Constantan blend. That's going to get us all the Constantan that we need, but I do think, once again, we're going to have to go back to the harvesting mill for some wood, because we need a lot more EMC to get all of the iron that we need. And then in terms of bronze here, it's the exact same process, or a very similar process to making Constantan. Bronze we can make by smelting a bronze blend. A bronze blend you make with 3 copper dust and 1 tin dust. So I'm going to do a fair bit of tree chopping here, maybe till we get over 10,000 EMC, and then we'll come back and we'll see if we can't make this multi-servo press. Okay, so quite a bit of wood chopping later. So we've managed to acquire about 15,000 EMC. Let's get the 3 copper and 1 tin required to make the bronze blend. We'll craft that up and we'll get that smelting nice and fast. And then we'll also grab just a bunch of iron. We need at least a block's worth in order to get the multi-servo press. Then we need a few more for gears and whatnot as well. So we'll take a ton of iron and we'll get that split amongst a couple of our furnaces to make that hopefully nice and fast. We can do the same, of course, with our bronze blend. We can throw that across 4 different furnaces to make that super quick. And then while we wait for that, let's head back over to here. Let's make those 2 Constantan gears just as soon as we grab, of course, the Constantan that we were smelting. Then it's just 4 cobblestone that we're missing for the machine frame. And of course, 1 more iron. That is fine. Iron is smelting over in here. Let's make sure that one actually gets smelted as well. We'll then take our 4 bronze. And I think, chat, that we should be pretty much good to go here. We have enough iron now to make the block, and we have enough ingots to make the machine frame. And so if we put all of that together, that should be the multi-servo press. Nice. So let's go and drop that down in front of our Sterling Dynamo. That's going to start receiving power. And now we can look at making the basic mechanical essence. Now, the whole idea is to automate this, but I think the first one here we'll look at crafting manually, and then from there, we'll look at automating. So for this, we are going to need at least 4 aluminum, which is called bauxite when it's in raw form. Thankfully, again, not too expensive. We'll drop all 4 of those in the furnace there. We then need, as we saw before, a fair bit of copper, but we do have 6 ingots, which I think is more than enough because we only need 2 copper rods to get that going. And then, other than that, it's just an iron gear, which we might be able to do with the iron that we have left over. We totally can. Fantastic. Let's get that crafted up over in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, with a nugget in the middle. Gets us the iron gear, and then we're just waiting on the 4 bauxite, at which point, chat, we actually have everything that it takes to make the basic mechanical essence. We can put that into the multi-servo press, and we're going to get our first influx of EMC, because not only do we get the 8,196 from handing in this basic mechanical crystal, but as a reward for completing the quest, we get 16 of these basic mechanical crystals right out of the gate, and so we're going to get well in excess of 100,000 EMC as a reward for making this happen. And so let's do something like this to get the aluminum gear. And then if we combine that with the iron gear and the 2 copper rods, we get the basic mechanical essence, which we can drop into the multi-servo press. Now, it does take a little while to process. It's not the fastest transformation in the world. It does take 12,000 redstone flux. And given that this is only processing 20 redstone flux per tick, that is going to take a little bit of time to get there. But once it's done, boom, we get not only the 8,000 from this, which we can, of course, learn, but as a reward, we get those 16 extra. Boom, we've got 150,000 EMC to play with. That is going to make it so much easier for us to now look at automating the production of these basic mechanical crystals. So if we're going to automate this, the basics of automating are not too difficult. The sequential fabricator here is a machine from thermal expansion that allows us to automatically craft certain recipes. So we could use that to craft the final piece of the puzzle. And then some of the other machines here are going to be useful mostly in that they make the whole process more efficient. The first thing we need to do really though, I guess, is get this guy right here, the EMC link, because this is what is going to allow us to extract items automatically from the transmutation tablet. Because none of this is automatable unless we can get an unlimited source, or an automated source, I should say, of, raw iron, raw copper, raw tin, all of that stuff that is required to actually make the basic mechanical essence. That is where the basic EMC link Mark 1 comes in. It says here, with the basic EMC link, you can automatically convert items to EMC and vice versa. With them, you can fully automate the production of mechanical essences. So if we want to make our first EMC link, this is made with 2 invar plates, 1 Minecraft barrel, and then 1 of each of the low, medium, and high covalence dusts. So the low dust is super easy. It's cobblestone and charcoal. Let's get a single log into a furnace to get that charcoal. The medium is also not too bad. It's 1 iron and 1 redstone. That's actually easier for us because we have both of those ready to go. And then the high covalence dust is 1 gold and 1 coal. Boom and boom, there's the high covalence dust. And if we can get a little bit of cobblestone, we can then also get the low covalence dust. Nice. So at that point, the only thing that we're really missing is the invar plates. So invar is another blend. This one is between iron and nickel. So it's 2 iron and 1 nickel. So you got 2 iron grit and 1 nickel grit. Like this, that gets you invar blend. We can then smelt that over in here. And of course, much like we did before, we can then use the hammer to craft those invar ingots into invar plates. Never mind, that is not possible. We do have to use either a metal press or a multi-servo press, but thankfully we do have a multi-servo press over here ready to go. Not quite sure why invar is the only resource that we can't make into plates using the hammer, but I guess it's maybe something to do with the fact that it's used to make the EMC link, and therefore the pack maker wants you to get the multi-servo press first. But either way, once that's done, we're just missing a standard Minecraft barrel, which does require that we get a couple of slabs. And then if we do something like this and like this, we get a barrel. We can take that barrel, we can combine it with our 2 invar plates, and boom, we have a basic EMC link. So right now, this is not super useful. We do need a way to extract from it. And while we could use, I believe, a hopper to extract, I think the better option is going to be to go with Pretty Pipes, this mod right here. It says, in order to actually automate stuff, you want an effective way to move items from machine to machine. Hoppers are too slow, and filtering them is too space consuming. Pretty Pipes, however, are a great solution early on. If you don't want items to overflow, you install a stack limiter module on the output, and that's going to stop too many items going into one given space. Now, thankfully, the pack creator has been very nice here in that they've actually given us a ton of stuff as a reward for crafting our first Pretty Pipe. And this doesn't seem too difficult. It's 1 redstone, 1 copper, 1 glass, and then 2 iron bars. Unfortunately, it looks like the glass is going to be tricky for us because the way that we're going to get it is by pulverizing cobble down into gravel, and then pulverizing gravel down into sand, and then smelting that sand. So we are going to have to head back over temporarily to thermal expansion. We're going to have to see about getting this pulverizer after all. Thankfully, we do still have it bookmarked over here, and it doesn't seem too difficult. We are a couple of pieces of copper away. Again, we do have a ton of EMC now, so we don't really have to worry anywhere near as much about crafting too many of any given resource here. But we'll get a bunch of copper smelting. Other than that, it's mostly the same. We do need a piston this time. We need 1 more gold to get the flux coil. We need some more tin to get the machine frame, and then just iron redstone. In fact, I think we have basically everything we need to make that piston. We totally do. Do we have enough tin lying around? We don't. That's fine. Let's quickly grab some tin as well. We'll get that smelting up over in here. And then as per usual, we'll also just grab a ton of iron. A stack might not be a bad option, to be honest, because again, we've got so much EMC. I feel like just smelting up a stack of iron to have on hand is going to be well worth it. All right, so a fair bit of smelting later. Let's craft up the 2 copper gears, the redstone flux coil, the tin gear required for the machine frame, the machine frame itself, and of course, the pulverizer. Nice. Now, the tricky part here, I guess, or the next tricky part, is actually getting power to all of these machines. There is a quest here for basic power transportation. It says eventually you'll want to power multiple machines with the same dynamos. Use these energy cables to connect your machines and generators together so they can share power with each other. But I don't know how doable this is going to be just yet. The starter energy cable here requires 2 iron nuggets, 6 dielectric rods of the horizontal variety, and then a basic capacitor. The basic capacitor requires redstone, iron, and dielectric paste. The dielectric rod also requires iron nuggets and dielectric paste, and the dielectric paste is actually not too bad. 2 coal, 1 clay, and 1 redstone. In fact, we have everything it takes to make that happen, now that I mention it. So in fact, let's get some coal. We have some redstone. Clay, I believe we have access to in our transmutation tablet. We totally do. And so if we just combine all of those up in here, we can get a fair amount of dielectric paste fairly easily. And then from there, we just need to do something like this to get, not like that, like this to get the dielectric rods. And then we need the block of redstone. Yeah, that's the only thing we're missing in terms of getting the basic capacitor. And so let's grab one more block of redstone ore, break that down. We could have used the pulverizer there actually, which I think would have been the better way of doing it, because the pulverizer is just more efficient. You get 6 redstone dust per redstone ore, whereas we only got 4 redstone dust there per redstone ore, which is of course less efficient, but that is one of the things we're going to work on as we push forward here. Thankfully, you do get 4 of these at a time, and you get 2 basic tiny capacitors for every 1 regular capacitor, and so boom, getting a large amount of these energy cables is not going to be a problem for us going forward. Now, what we can do is we can probably move this. The reason I'm moving this is that this has 50,000 redstone flux, as you can see at the top there, inside of it, and this only has 4,000. So breaking this kind of deletes less power from the entire system, and then we can do something like this, and now we have a bit of a line that we can use to place all of our machines onto. Now that we have the pulverizer, we can pulverize our cobblestone down into gravel. We can then take that gravel and pulverize that down into sand. Again, unfortunately, the gravel does not have an EMC there. It's really just the base resources that have an EMC, things like cobblestone, things like the raw ores, everything after that that you make from processing usually doesn't. And then, of course, we can take this, drop it into one of our furnaces, and that's going to get us our first bit of glass. Other than glass, I think we have basically everything else. We have redstone, we have copper, and we have enough iron here, thanks to that stack that we smelted, to make some iron bars nice and quickly. And so once we have the glass, we can make our first pretty pipe, like so, and that's going to give us a bunch of rewards for that. So I am going to try and clear out my inventory just a little bit here. There's some stuff that we don't need to be hanging on to, like this, the 1 Pro breed meat. For those who are wondering, you can shift right click this, and then you can change basically where that little bit of information at the top goes. You'll see it says grass block, Minecraft, shovel, EMC. You can change that and move it around to wherever you want it to be. If you want it to be on the left there, you can move it. It would be on the left. I like to have mine at the top. You can also make it bigger and smaller if you so wish. I like mine on this kind of 1- option. It's not too big, not too small, but once you've set that up, you really don't need to keep that anymore. And speaking of which, I also don't really think we need the minimap in the top right-hand corner there. So to get rid of that, we can press M, we can go down to the settings, we can scroll down to visibility, and we can just set that to 0. And that's going to go ahead, get rid of the minimap. I don't think it's really needed for a skyblock like this, and also it's so small that I don't think it's particularly useful either. Real quick, let's sleep, and then let's see if we can't start to bring all of these things together and try and automate the production of these resources here. So we'll claim our rewards. That's going to give us a ton of stuff. We'll get to all of this in a second here. But basically, I think the first thing that we're going to want to do is probably get more of these EMC links, because we want to take these and then we want to run them into, I think, probably a few sequential fabricators. Or at least, maybe not actually, because I think we probably want to use the multi-servo press with a gear working die, that's this one here, to automate the crafting of the gears, right? So we're trying to automate this recipe. So we need to automate the production of iron gears, the production of aluminum gears, and the production of copper rods. I think all 3 of these can be done in a multi-servo press. If we make 3 multi-servo presses, we can have one that turns 4 iron into 1 iron gear, which is actually cheaper than this recipe because it doesn't require that iron nugget. We can also use the same recipe for the aluminum gear. 4 aluminum equals 1 aluminum gear. And then as for the copper rod, if we put in a rod die, we can turn 1 copper ingot into 2 copper rods, which is substantially more efficient than our current recipe, which is 2 copper ingots to 1 copper rod. This requires half as much copper and gives you twice as much output. So if we can get 3 multi-servo presses, so 2 more on what we currently have, we can then look at getting, I guess, 3 basic EMC links, because you can only have 1 output per EMC link. And so we need to have 1 EMC link per item. But the basic gist here is that we can put this down. We can place down a pretty pipe. Now, the pretty pipes do actually need to be 2 blocks away from the source. I'll show you what I mean here. If I move this over to here, normally with a pipes mod, you can just put a pipe down and then set it to extract, and it'll extract. That's not how it works with pretty pipes. With pretty pipes, we want to connect 2 pipes like this, and then the pipe that is touching the basic EMC link is the one that we want to use to install the extraction upgrade. That's this one here, the extraction module. If we put that in here, this is now ready to extract from the basic EMC link. And all we have to do now is tell the basic EMC link what to extract. The way that we do that is we take whatever it is we want to extract. For example, if it was raw iron, we can take the raw iron, we can put that onto the basic EMC link, like so, and then that's going to start producing iron. And you'll see in the top left there that we're actually shown that we're currently losing 256 EMC per second because that EMC is being actively converted into raw iron ore. And that's where this gets super cool and super nifty, because now we can use this to automate everything. So we can take the basic EMC link here, we can get 3 of them, 1 for iron, 1 for copper, and 1 for aluminum. And then if we have those connected up to 3 multi-servo presses, 2 of them with a gear working die and 1 of them with a rod die, we can automatically produce the iron gear, the aluminum gear, and the copper rods required to produce the basic mechanical essence, at which point we just need a sequential fabricator to craft up that mechanical essence, and then of course 1 4th and final multi-servo press to actually process that mechanical crystal, that mechanical essence into a mechanical crystal. And at that point, we will have automated the process of generating EMC, at least for tier 1. So I guess let's see then if we can't craft up 3 more multi-servo presses and then 1 sequential fabricator. The sequential fabricator, again, isn't actually too bad. We are a little bit of copper shy because we need 2 copper gears, but the flux coil, the machine frame, all of this is stuff we've seen before, and it really shouldn't be too difficult. All right, so a bunch of smelting later. I think we should be somewhat close to making this happen. So let us grab a little bit of cobblestone and a little bit of wood. We can then make a regular old crafting table, and from there we can get, I guess, we might as well make all of these at once. So if we're going to make 3 more multi-servo presses, that means that we're going to need 3 more tin gears, actually 4 more, 1 for the sequential fabricator as well, and then 4 of these machine frames. That should almost be everything. Again, we might as well make these in bulk as well, because we also need a redstone flux coil for every single one of the machines we're making. Again, this is more efficient in the pulverizer. Let's get 4 of these. Then let's make that sequential fabricator. That's 2 copper gears, and it's done. And then do we have what it takes to make all of these multi-servo presses? I think the answer should be yes. There's 4 Constantan gears, which is definitely not enough. Did I put more in here? I did. Let me grab that as well. We also have more bronze, should we need it, and some more tin smelting up as well. We need 6 Constantan gears and 3 blocks of iron, at which point, boom, look at that. We got 3 more multi-servo presses. Nice. So now all we need is 2 gear working dies and 1 rod die. The gear working die is 4 invar plates and a gold gear. The gold gear is going to be expensive there. And then the rod die is a similar setup. It's 4 invar plates and a gold rod. So we're going to need a fair bit more gold. It is potentially going to be worth it for us to pulverize the gold here. In previous versions of Minecraft, this would double the amount of gold you got. But since the introduction of Minecraft's new raw ore system, now instead of getting double the output, you get 1 gold dust with a chance, a 25% chance of getting a 2nd gold dust. So basically 1 in every 4 gold that you smelt is going to give you an extra gold dust. So not quite as good as it used to be, but it does mean that if we pulverize this gold, we do have a chance of getting more, and we also have a chance of getting a little bit of copper as a byproduct as well. While we wait for that, and we can start smelting that, of course, as it comes in, but while we wait for that, let's get the 12 invar plates crafted. So there is all of the invar. We need 12 plates. Again, these do need to be done over in the multi-servo press, so we'll just drop all of those in like that. That is going to take a hot minute. Over here, the gold is done. We did end up getting 6 gold from that, so a slight benefit from the multiplying effect of the pulverizer, but that should be basically everything. We can craft 2 of these into a rod. I say basically everything. We don't have enough gold, Isaac. I do actually need to get at least 3 more gold. And again, we'll go ahead and pulverize that, mostly because we're still waiting for the invar ingots, but also there's that small chance of getting the extra gold. Nonetheless, 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll craft that with our iron nugget. That gets us our first gold gear. And then as soon as we get enough invar plates, we can do 1, 2, 3, 4 of those with the gear. And that's going to get us the gear working die. The quest does actually give us, I didn't know this, it does give us the chance to pick one. So I'm going to take another gear working die here because I think it's the more expensive option. And that means that actually we have everything it takes here, chat, I think, to automate this setup. So we have 2 gear working dies and we have 1 rod die. So what we should be able to do is hopefully set this up. So I'm going to move these machines. The Twitch chat did suggest that the machines might hold their power. They do. Interesting. So you can actually pick these up without fear of them losing the power that's stored within them. We'll pick all this up as well. And we'll look at setting up a very basic system for automating these mechanical cubes. So we're going to need 3 of these EMC links. We'll put one of them down over here, and then we'll have the other 2 along the same lines. We can then have a set of pipes that are going to extract from these, and again, they do need to be 2 long, but they're going to go into all 3 of the multi-servo presses. So we're going to have one that is producing iron gears. We are going to have to configure this, but we'll do that in a second. We're going to have one that is producing aluminum gears, and we're going to have one that is producing copper rods. We're then going to take all 3 of those and pump those into a sequential fabricator. We can put the sequential fabricator here just to make life a little easier. And then the final product, like the basic mechanical crystal here, can be pumped back into an EMC link to automatically add the EMC back into the network. Real quick though, let's see if we can't get 2 more of these basic EMC links. It looks like we should have basically everything here. We also could do with eating a little bit of our bread. We are getting a tiny bit hungry here. Also, let's not let that despawn. Thankfully, these are also fairly cheap to make. We're going to need, I think, quite a few of those low extraction modules. That shouldn't be a problem. Let's take you and you. We've got just enough slabs to make 2 more barrels. Fantastic. And then we're just missing, actually, surprisingly, some more invar plates, which is fine. Let's go ahead, put the invar in there, and then temporarily I'm just going to do something like this. Of course, we do need to give all of these machines power. I would like to do that under the platform to try and make it look a little bit nicer, so we'll probably end up moving this fairly shortly and getting maybe a few more cables to make it a little bit tidier. But for now, there is our 3rd EMC link. We'll put that one down over here like this and like this. So all of these are going to require the low extraction module. So we are going to have to make some more of those. That's fine. Inside of the machines, we want to click the configuration tab and we want to make sure that the left is set to blue. That's the input, and you'll see that it swaps from looking like this to looking like this, which is what we want. So we want the left to be blue and we want that to be input. Okay, so what we can do here, now that I think about it, you can put the multi-servo press down directly next to the EMC link and you can turn auto input on. What that would do is that would allow us to automatically start pulling resources from the transmutation tablet, which could be good, but could also be bad. If we right-click this on, like so, that's going to start pulling raw iron ore. The only trouble with this setup is that we can't limit the amount of resources that are extracted, which means that we could potentially end up in a situation where all of our EMC gets spent on raw iron and then there's no EMC left in the system for making copper. That's not really what we want. Now, we can get around that by using one of these other modules. We can use the stack limiter module. So the stack limiter module, I believe, is going to allow us to limit how many items go into the multi-servo press. So if we put these back down, we can put the stack limiter into this pipe just as soon as we set this to insert again. So I'll put this in here, and then in here, you'll see that we now have a tab for the stack limiter module, and we can limit the amount of items we want going in. For example, we could just limit this to 1. And so now, if we were to put our extraction module into this guy, he is set to extract raw iron. That's going to go over into there, but it's not going to request any more raw iron, or it's not going to extract any more raw iron until this raw iron is processed. So once this has been processed into an iron ingot, then it will request another one, which I think is a more effective solution because it means that we don't have a ton of EMC just kind of sitting around in the multi-servo presses waiting to be processed. Of course, we could increase this to, 2 or 4 just to make sure there's always a little bit in there, but I think for the most part, this is fine. The Twitch chat is pointing out a slight flaw in my current design, and that is that we have no way of smelting any of these raw resources. That is fine, and that is actually where one of these next quests come in. There was a quest here for the redstone furnace, so we could definitely do with making 3 of those. Again, 1 for aluminum, 1 for copper, and 1 for iron. It doesn't seem too difficult, and we might actually have most of what we need here. We have somehow managed to burn through all of that iron. I guess the multi-servo presses did require a few blocks of iron, which is really what pushed it over the edge there. But that is one of those. Let me temporarily as well put some of these other machines and stuff away just to free up a little bit of inventory space. Copper gear-wise, we've got the perfect amount of copper there to make the 6 copper gears required. We do need 3 redstone flux coils. I thought I might have been processing some more gold. Oh, I am. It's in my inventory. Let's get that smelting. And then other than that, we need bricks. So we need 6 bricks, which means we're going to have to smelt a fair bit of clay, but that shouldn't be a problem. While we're at it, we'll also smelt up some more raw iron as well, just to keep on top of the ever-growing demand for the stuff. So a little bit of clay smelting later. There are 6 bricks. I think that should be basically everything that we need. It is. Nice. So there's 3 redstone furnaces. We are going to have to move everything here over by 1. So we'll move this over to here. We'll put the redstone furnace down like that. Of course, we'll move these 2 over as well. And the redstone furnace is going to go there. And then, of course, the multi-servo press here, going to move 1 over like that. And the redstone furnace can go down like so. Nice. So we'll set all of these to input from the left. And again, I think it's going to be worth investing in a couple of these stack limiter upgrades that limit the number of resources that go in. We'll set the number to like 6, maybe, just so that we can keep a fair amount in there and there's always some iron ready to be smelted. In fact, I don't see a reason to go above 2, in all honesty. That way we can kind of maximize the amount of EMC inside our transmutation tablet, and we can also minimize the downtime of the redstone furnace, because there's always something else for it to process, and by the time it's finished processing, the next iron will be ready to go. So we could do with making 2 more of these, which again, thankfully, are not too difficult to make. These blank modules are a little pricey, like in the sense that they're just, for what they are, but they're not too bad. Nothing we can't handle. It's mostly just a lot of redstone. In fact, I think we probably have what it takes to make 2 more of these right off the bat here. Let's make 2 more droppers, and then let's make 2 of these. We are going to need some stone slabs, but thankfully, we thought ahead. We have stone ready to go. I'm going to make a bunch of stone slabs because we're going to need a ton of these blank modules going forward. And then, of course, iron nuggets I did smelt up another stack of iron, so hopefully not going to be a problem. I'll craft all 6 of these here, and we'll get, ideally, 3 stack limiters just as soon as we get a little bit more redstone. While we're here, we should also make the 2 more low extraction modules. Also not going to be too difficult. We need 2 more pistons, and boom, that's all that. Perfect. So we'll put those in over here. Boom and boom. We'll put these in here. Boom and boom. We'll set all of these to 2 because that is all we need. Fantastic. And then what we'll do is this multi-servo press is going to get a gear working die, which we place in the bottom slot here. This one is also going to get a gear working die, and this one here is going to get a rod die. So that means that we want the raw bauxite coming out of here. We should see 1 move over, then a second, and then we should be done. Fantastic. And then we're going to do the exact same with copper, but the copper is going to extract over here. That's going to move over, and we're going to get 2 copper in there. Fantastic. So once those are done, we want them to output to the right-hand side. So we want to set the output here to orange, which is the output slot, and we're going to toggle auto output from disabled to enabled. That means the redstone furnace is going to push the copper ingots into the multi-servo press, which is already set to input from the left-hand side, which is perfect. So output and auto-enable the auto-eject, and then this one already set to input. Fantastic. You also are already set to input. We'll set that to output, and we'll turn on auto-eject. Nice. Cool. So that is going to work. We can take that out of there because that is no longer needed in there. And then once these receive power, this should start working. All three of these are going to smelt the raw ores into their ingot form. Then we're going to process them into iron gears, aluminum gears, and into copper rods. And then the final piece of the puzzle is getting everything into the sequential fabricator. In fact, I don't know actually if setting this to auto output will push the item into the pipe or not. We'll have to give that a test. I don't think it works, but if it does work, that would be fantastic. Ideally, we do want this machine facing forward so that we can set the back to input, the left to input, and the right to input. That's going to allow all three of those items to come together into the sequential fabricator. Now that I think about it, actually, we might want to even take it one step further and actually put pipes between the multi-servo press and the sequential fabricator. The sequential fabricator, in this version of Minecraft, I don't think has a way to limit how many of each item go in each slot. Like it used to be that you could lock the sequential fabricator to a recipe and then it would designate certain slots for certain resources. Unfortunately, I don't think that's the case anymore. And so what we might have to do is something like this with pretty pipes here. If we then, of course, set this to output, we can put extraction modules in here, here, and here, or we can test to see if the auto output works. But what we can do again is we can get another one of these stack limiter modules, which I think we can just make. We totally can. And we can put that in here. And I'm being told by the maker of the pack that if we set this to whatever number it is, this number that we put in is a per item amount. And so basically, now that I've set it to 2, what that should do is that should only allow 2 iron gears, 2 copper rods, and 2 aluminum gears in at any given time, meaning there should always be space in the sequential fabricator for all 3 resources. The problem that we could run into if we don't do this is we could end up in a situation where all of these slots here get filled up with copper rods, and if that were to happen, there would then be no space for the iron and the aluminum gears, and at that point the whole system would just stop working until we manually came over and fixed it, which is not ideal. So all we need to do now, chat, to actually see if we can get this working is give this power. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some more energy cables, and then I'm going to try and make this look a little nicer. So real quick, I am doing a slight redo of the system here, mostly because I want the sequential fabricator. I want everything to fit in this wooden area. I don't like this overhanging here. But someone in the chat makes a good point in that it might not be a terrible idea for us to do something like this, where we have the redstone furnace pulling. So if we have the top here set to auto input, we have the redstone furnace auto pulling all of the iron directly into itself. That is a little EMC wasteful, as we mentioned before, but the benefit of this is that it means that eventually we will probably have a backlog of iron, aluminum, and copper that we can just come and grab whenever we need it, which is going to be especially useful in the early game because it means that if at some point we run out of iron ingots, instead of having to manually smelt more, we can just come over here, grab a stack of iron ingots out of the redstone furnace, and then they'll be auto-replenished. Like I say, it is a little EMC wasteful. It means that we're not using our EMC as efficiently as possible at all times, but it does give us a nice little backup of resources. And so long as we have, I'm going to turn it off for a second because we are running a little low on EMC, but so long as we have enough EMC to make that happen, it should be okay. Again, the only problem that could arise is if we fully run out of EMC, it's possible there's not enough like EMC around to make like the necessary copper or aluminum. We'll see. If that becomes a problem, we can always change this again. But if it doesn't, I think this could be quite a nifty way of getting a large amount of ingots. And then the idea, of course, here is that we can then have 2 pipes like this, but we can still use the same stack limiter on the multi-servo press. And the multi-servo press only ever needs, 4 iron at any given time to allow it to make the iron gears. All right, so not too long later, we've reorganized this with the new setup, and I have placed down a temporary little platform down here to run all these starter energy cables to all of the machines in such a way that you can't see them from the surface, and we've got our Sterling Dynamo hooked up. Now, the trouble is that we have got 7 machines that each use 20 redstone flux per tick, and we only have 1 dynamo producing 40 redstone flux per tick, which is not ideal. So we are going to need probably 3 more Sterling dynamos, and if we want to automate those, as I mentioned earlier, I think the Sawmill is going to be our best bet. So we can take the Sawmill. This is going to allow us to get more efficiency out of our wood. We're going to get more planks for every log that we craft through this thing. And it's also going to work out quite nicely because it's basically 1 dynamo per 2 machines, and the Sawmill takes us to a nice even number of machines, which is pretty nice. That should be 3 more Sterling dynamos. It is. We do also need a bit more in the way of energy cable, but thankfully we have some. Oh, I didn't realize. Did we get that as a quest reward for completing the quest? We did. Unfortunately, I don't know if you can connect the 2 tiers of pipe. Let me check that real quick. Also, let's see here. So this guy is there. So it's going to be there and there. Do these connect? They don't, which is unfortunate. So is losing that there. For now, we don't need the basic energy cable. These ones are basically the next tier up. They can transfer 2,000 redstone flux per tick as opposed to the standard 500 redstone flux per tick that the starter cables can transfer. But right now, starter is going to be just fine. So we'll get 12 more of those, and that should be enough to connect us up to the redstone furnaces as well, like this. So we'll hook all of those up like that. I guess we'll just have this run here, and then we'll do that and that to connect that up. That last one, not necessary, but it does add to the symmetry. We can then do something like this. I'm going to put some stone down because these dynamos can be a little fiddly in terms of like placement. So we'll do this, and then we do need to get a 4th one down. I guess, even though it's not going to be symmetrical, we can just get rid of one of these pipes because, of course, it does run around the backside there, and we'll connect up just fine. We can get rid of this as well, actually, to give us 1 extra pipe in our inventory. We'll then do something like this to connect that up, get rid of the stone, and now that we have the Sterling dynamos, it's a case of getting that Sawmill and getting the wood to all of the dynamos. For that, we are going to need, for one, to hook this up to power, but we're also going to need a another EMC link. Boom. There is yet another EMC link. Thankfully, you get a ton of those covalence dusts in the early game, so that's not a problem at all. Here, we can have the Sawmill just infinitely pull wood. I think that's going to be fine, so we can set auto-eject to on. That's not going to be a problem. This does, of course, need to be logs and not planks, and so we are going to have to grab at least 1 log, so we can right-click and set the EMC link. And then the only trouble here, potentially, there's a few things that could be troublesome, actually. The first potential problem is if the Sawmill is not fast enough, which is entirely possible. That could be a problem. We might need multiple Sawmills, or we might just need to rethink this strategy and maybe go with coal instead if this doesn't work. Real quick, I'm going to put some power into these just so we can start getting everything online and we can see if it's actually going to work. We do also get sawdust as a byproduct here, which is not really something we want. So I'm going to set the left to output there. I don't think you can burn the sawdust. You can't, unfortunately. We do have the nullifier, which could be used potentially as a way of getting rid of the sawdust. The good news is it does seem to be fast enough, which is very nice indeed. So what we want to do here is we want to extract, obviously, over on this side, round into these guys. If I set auto-eject to on, does that push into the dynamos? It doesn't, unfortunately. That's fine. We can, of course, just go ahead and put a low extraction module into there. And, of course, we do need to change this because you'll see now the problem is, and this is why it needs to be 2 blocks away, the trouble is that it's extracting from that Sterling dynamo, which is not at all what we want. So let's take that extraction module out, and then let's just move this guy over by 1. So it turns out, I'm being told by the pack creator that there's a better way of doing this. So by the looks of it here, we can put the low extraction module in here, and then over here, you can change the side that it is set to extract from. You'll see right now it says all sides, but we just want it set to the Sawmill, which is south. That's only going to extract from the Sawmill. That's super cool. I don't know if that's like a new addition to the newer versions of Pretty Pipes or what, but it does mean that we can actually make all of this much more compact because we don't need this 2-block gap. Although this is still needed, I guess, because we need the stack limiter. But that does mean that certain setups are going to be able to be much more compact because of the fact that you can set the specific side for the extraction. That is very cool. But either way, this does seem to be working. Now, right now, it's only sending wood to the closest dynamo. That's not going to be a problem if we're producing the wood fast enough, which it looks like we are. In fact, it looks like the extraction speed is really the only thing that's slowing us down. Yeah, this should be fine. You can get a round-robin pipe upgrade, this thing right here. If we were to put that into there, it's also not too expensive, but does require flint, which we currently don't have. If we were to put that in here, it would distribute the wood between all 4 dynamos evenly. I don't think that's needed, because once this fills up, it's then going to start filling up the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, and eventually all of these will be full, and I think that's fine. There is also a possibility here for us to take the sawdust, compact that down into a block of sawdust, and then use that as another source of fuel as well. That's potentially something we could look at doing in the future. For now, we'll just give this some wood as well. Let's see if we can't get this EMC generation system online. So this is working. It's producing iron. Over here, we want you producing bauxite and you producing copper, and then that's going to go over into here. So I'll put the copper there. That's going to start making the good stuff. Fantastic. The iron is going to go in here. It's going to make the iron gears. They're a little slower, but that's fine. And then over here, we want the aluminum, right? We want the bauxite, so we want the aluminum ingots in like that. Then we need extraction modules, I think, on all of these. And then over here, we need that that final stack limiter. In fact, the stack limiters can go on all of these, right? So you need a stack limiter. We're going to set you to 2. Fantastic. You need a stack limiter, but I think for that, we actually need more pipes, because I think we're finally out of pipes, which is not ideal. And that does also mean that we're going to have to get another glass, but that should be fine. We can just pulverize the sand. That's not going to be a problem for us. And over here, you also need a stack limiter. We'll set that to 2 as well. That should be fine. 4 pipes later, boom and boom. We can put in our final stack limiter. There we go. Chat does make a good point that these need to be set to 4, not to 2, because you need 4 iron and 4 aluminum to make a gear, not just 2, like with the copper rod there. That is fine. And so I think, chat, now the final piece of the puzzle is going to be getting all of these extraction modules down, right? So we need an extraction module over here. We need one over here. And then we need 4 more. We need 1 for this redstone furnace and 3 over here. That shouldn't be a problem. We are going to need a fair bit more redstone, though, because we are very low on this stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4. Nice. Okay, so we'll set you to extract. We'll set you to extract, you to extract, and you to extract. And then, so long as those are all set up correctly, I would have thought that that would work. Oh, I might have to actually set the pattern inside of the sequential fabricator before any of this will make its way out. So in here, we need to go you, not you, and then tick. And then now it should start to receive those items. And it is fantastic. We can put these in as well, like that. And boom, look at that. It's making the machines. I am now realizing, though, that we also need the multi-servo press down, right? We got 1 more multi-servo press lying around in here. That's going to go down, I guess, for now, right about here. I don't love the lack of symmetry. I might end up moving that potentially. But for now, we'll put it there. I could have put it on top, but then getting power to it would have been awkward. We'll set this to input from the left, and we'll set you to output to the right with auto eject on. That's going to push that into there. And then the final thing we need is a little bit more sand, which we should be getting down here. You do get both gravel and sand from smelting, from pulverizing cobblestone. And then you can also pulverize the gravel even further if you want even more sand. But essentially, we're going to go from here and we're going to pipe around into a basic EMC link. We could, if we wanted to, just make another EMC link. But that does require 2 more invar plates, which actually we have. So you know what? Sure, let's... In that case, what I might do to make this symmetrical is I might move this. And then as soon as we get our stuff back after dying, all right, so a quick trip down to the void. Thankfully, this pack does have gravestone. So when you die, all of your items are just placed into a gravestone. All you got to do is go back down to the void. If you fall out of the world, the gravestone will just spawn right at the bottom of the world. So you go all the way down and you get your stuff back. That is all good. I would love to grab that energy pipe there. What I'm trying to do here is just make this a little bit more symmetrical. So what I'm thinking is that if we do this, we can get rid of that there. We can put a pipe here, 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 here. And then we need one more to go right there. And unfortunately, I think we're fully out of pipes. But that's going to allow us to have the... actually, no, I'm incorrect here. I'm going to move this as well. That's my bad. I want to have the multi-servo press down here and the sequential fabricator here. And then we're going to put the new EMC link on the end. So all three machines are going to be centered in this little area. We are kind of running out of inventory space here, which is less than ideal. I could definitely do with dumping some stuff. But if we do this and this, we actually get one pipe back because that one is no longer needed. Now, back up on the surface, chat, what we can do is we can put down our multi-servo press here. We can put down our sequential fabricator again here. This does lose its memory, so we are going to have to teach it once again how to actually make all of this stuff happen, but that should be fine. To make that happen, I'm a little hesitant to get the bauxite going, but let's do this and get bauxite extracting here and smelting as well, ideally. You need to be set to auto input enabled. The same is true here. We'll set the top to auto input enabled. This one is already set like that, but we'll hold off on that because we do have iron gears already. So these are going to come in. Once we get our first aluminum gear, we can set that up on the sequential fabricator. We do need to move this pipe over. And in doing so, we can also move the stack limiter to here as well. Fantastic. And then as we were about to do before we fell into the void, we can get another barrel. I think I have some slabs left over. I totally do. One more barrel gets us one more EMC link. Fantastic. And once we have that, we can place that down right about here. And then we're going to set this to auto output to the right. And we'll turn auto output on. And that should just work. So now the basic mechanical crystals that are made should get dumped into the system. You have a aluminum gear. That is fantastic. Let's do this, this, and this. And tick. We'll dump all those in. And that should begin working. It's going to make the essence. The essence is going to get processed in the multi-servo press. This is really the bit that's going to slow us down, is just how fast the multi-servo press goes. We could, again, if we really wanted to kind of slow the whole system down, we could use the same system here where we have an extraction pipe on the sequential fabricator and we have a stack limiter going into the multi-servo press so that only one or two basic mechanical essences are ever in here, because otherwise we are going to end up with a full stack of basic mechanical essences kind of slowly but surely making their way in. But I think that's fine. I think looking at our EMC value in the top left there, we're at 14,300, 14,044. It's going down, but it's going down slowly. And I think we're definitely going to produce more EMC than we lose. We produce 8,192 EMC every time this finishes. And in that time, we don't use anywhere near that much. And so we have finally, successfully, automated the production of the basic mechanical essence and also the production of the basic mechanical crystal. And we are currently gaining EMC, albeit fairly slowly. Now, there are, of course, ways that we can make this whole setup more efficient. You could, for example, use induction smelters, because if we used induction smelters instead of redstone furnaces here, also we do need to set the top here actually to input. Now that I think about it, there we go, to start getting that stuff to come back in again. That is all going just fine. Let's do the same here. We'll set you to input, and we'll set that to produce copper, like so. But if we were to use the induction smelter, unlike the pulverizer, which only has a 1.25 chance to generate an extra copper ingot, the induction smelter has a 50% chance to give you a second ingot. So if we were to use induction smelters instead of redstone furnaces, we would get 50% more copper, aluminum, and iron. The only downside is that you also get a byproduct that then has to be sent somewhere. Like you have to do something with it, and that's just more complexity to add to the system. It's probably something we'll look at doing at some point in the near future, just so that we can get even more EMC generation out of this entire system. But for the time being, this setup does work and is producing us EMC. And so next time, chat, we can come back. We can probably finish up the remainder of this quest line. In fact, I feel like we might as well do that here and now. We need an induction smelter, which doesn't look too bad. And then we just need 1 sand, and we get 16 as a reward. So real quick, what are we missing for an induction smelter? And if we grab the remaining invar out of here, 7 and 8, that is enough to get us 2 invar gears and the induction smelter. Nice. We also get the sand quest complete. We can throw this induction smelter into a chest for now. We'll use that next time. Let's claim all our rewards, including our new batch of sand. And if we take off this quest right here, which is a tip for automation, This basically tells you what I mentioned throughout the pack here. EMC links output 1 item per second, yet redstone furnaces and pulverizers take longer than that to process 1 item. Because of this, you will most likely need 1 pulverizer and 1 redstone furnace per each material needed for automation, copper, iron, aluminum, etc. Remember to trash unwanted byproducts such as slag, or they might stop your machines from working. You can also use the stack limiter module to limit how much your machines can accept, which is useful so that your 1 iron pulverizer doesn't consume all the EMC by filling with 64 raw iron. Boom. And there we go. That is Tier 1, Chapter 1 complete. Next time, we'll come back. We'll start with Chapter 2. We'll unlock all of our new resources, diamonds, lapis, bones, zinc, cactus, and netherrack, and we'll start using those to push forward into some new mods like Create. We've also got Immersive Engineering, which does give us potentially a way of getting free redstone flux in the form of the water wheel, mechanism, of course, and yeah, even more technology and even more automation as we work towards the next tier of cube, the regular mechanical essence. But those are all problems for future Isaac. For now, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this first episode of Mechanical Mastery there.